everyone. Today, we are going to explore a trending concept of functional reactive programming and its applications with fundamentals to be applied in real world web applications. In recent years, functional reactive programming has gained popularity in the front end community for its ability to handle complex asynchronous operations in a more declarative and composable way. Angular supports FRP through its powerful reactive programming library called RxJS. I hope you're very much aware of it and already using it extensively in your applications. But even if you're not, don't worry, I'll guide you through. This paradigm shift promotes the developer experience while resulting in more maintainable and scalable applications. By building a web application, all we are doing is building components or powering up those components, whether that be container component or presentation component. Any web application could be thought through as a bunch of components. Here, I'm going to talk about the approach we could take to frame the solution to build any component representing a feature in our web application. When it comes to structuring that component, we need to be concerned with these four basic elements. Starting with our data, the initial raw data that our component requires. We could feed that in through some asynchronous source or a static local data. Then comes the derived state, the state our view needs, which needs to be fed in for its rendering. Once it's rendered, the user could take some actions, which produces a cause. And based on those actions, some events are generated. I know all these terms might be floating around for now, but soon it's gonna make sense after I demonstrate this using our classic example of to-do list. We are gonna apply all the concepts, perspectives we learned in theory using our classic to-dos application. Let's be mindful that our goal here is to understand and follow the pattern we take to derive at our finished outcome or the working component. Going through each element that we discussed earlier using this case study. First off, actions. What do you think the actions that we could take here? That is, we can add a to-do, we can delete a to-do, and we can mark any to-do as completed. Right? And what could be the display or representational state or the derived state for this? This could be something like this. It's a list of to-do where each to-do will be having some title to the display and a completed status based on which we'll mark that to-do as completed or incomplete. And for this, we would be requiring a raw data that looks like this: a title, an ID to identify, and is completed flag. Now, user take the action, we got the data. After those actions are taken, these events could be generated. To-do is added, to-do is deleted, and to-do is completed. And based on these events, we need to change the view and reflect these events on the component. Okay, enough of theory and talking. Let's jump onto real coding. I have set up this Angular project using Angular version 16, and for APIs I'm using JSON server, and the initial data I have put down in the db.json. Okay, and also I have kept a folder for my to-dos feature, and inside the to-dos we're going to start with a template, or what you can call as view of the component. Okay, so our main focus starts with what our view or the template requires. Okay. There are a few states here. For example, it requires a list of to-dos item that I'm providing here. As you can see, this is an observable, and for most of the things we are going to keep observables at, I believe, in declarative concept. You'll soon know about it. Okay. And also each to do, it is concerned with its completed state based on which it's going to be checked or unchecked. Okay. And it's going to consume its description, as you can see what's going to be displayed here. Okay. For the actions, we have add action, update action, delete action, and mark as complete action. Soon we are going to attach things there. As of now, I have just have placeholder functions for it. For example, as it changes, or as I mark it as completed, I'm gonna call this particular function in my component, and so on and so forth for delete and for update and for add. For add and update, what we are going to do is I've already pasted the code for it. We are going to open a dialog, and that dialog you can find in the name of absurd to do, and that's a simple dialog actually. Again, starting with the view or the template of the component, it will have a form control taking the description or the updated description, and it will have an action for saving the changes. Okay, let's go ahead, and also this is the placeholder function for opening the dialog. I am opening this absurd to do component, providing the data, and I'm gonna provide the action. Is it the update or the add? And also, if there is any current data, we are gonna pass this current data in case of update. And also I have passed this injector so that this dialog should be able to use the same injector as this component. So the providers for this component should be able to pass into this particular component, our dialog component. Okay, again back to our to-dos component. Okay, let's first start with the let's say delete, right? For delete, we have this placeholder function called delete to do. Let's go to our component. So now, as we discussed previously, all the logic or the maximum logic we are gonna delegate to our service. That is nothing but to do service, and there our actions are gonna take place. There we are gonna get our initial data and the derived data. Okay. So let's go to do service and pin down our actions. Okay. Actions. And for the actions, I'm gonna keep subjects so that it's very easy to fire them from my components. Okay. So the subject for add new subject. Cool. The subject for delete new subject, and so on for the subject of update. And what's left now? Mark as complete. Mark as complete. Okay, cool. So now we have to decide what's going to be the type of it, what we can add We just need a description. That's what I think. So type could be just a string. For delete, we need to know which particular to-do item we are gonna delete. To-do. And for the update, we need the updated to-do. Again, I to-do. And for mark as complete, we need to know two things. First, which particular to-do item, and secondly, what is the complete flag there is complete. It could be boolean. Cool, our actions are ready. Now it's the time to fire those from our component. Okay, for the delete to do, this dot to do service dot okay dot delete subject dot fire. What does it take? The to do item. Cool, as simple as it is. Don't worry, soon we are going to attach our actions to create events. And the next steps, mark complete. So we say this dot to do service dot mark as complete. What does it take? It takes two things. First is to do item. That's nothing but, oh, I forgot to fire it. Okay, what does it take? It takes a to do, that is a to do item, and next is completed. We are marking this as completed or not. Let's take that flag here as completed. It's gonna be a boolean, and simply we could pass it down here. So from the template, yeah, we are not passing this particular flag. So let's do that now. Where is it? On change mark completed item. So can we say event target dot checked, whether it's checked or not? There is a little typo here, so let's get, oh, okay, so it says we have to, okay, we can just utilize this because we are using this mat slide toggle. Cool enough. So we are good for the delete, we are good for mark completed, and for add and update we have to go to upsert to do component. Okay, you can have a look at this component again in the main repo, and it's already firing this, or this function is getting invoked on save. Cool. You say see here on click save, and we are disabling this save button if it is invalid. So since this control is required, if the user doesn't fill any value, it's going to be disabled. Okay, cool enough. So based on the action, if it is add or if it is update, and you saw previously from our to-dos component, we are passing that particular action, add or update here, and if there is any current data to fill in. Cool. So here we have to fire our add subject. This dot to do service dot add dot next. What does it take? It takes a string, that is our description. So we can say this dot description control dot value. Okay, it is saying it could be null or string, but we have already checked, so I'm just gonna put a heck here as string. Although it could be done in better way, but I leave that up to you guys. Cool. So for the update, simply we're gonna fire that subject to service dot update dot next. What does it take? It needs an updated to do. What is going to be updated to do? The existing to do. The existing to do is nothing but the dialog data dot the current we were passing this thing, and what the existing to do, and we are going to override a property called description here. Description is nothing but, okay, let's do one thing. Let's take let's get the value here itself. It simplifies a lot of things for us. Cool. Now we can use this value in both the places. Okay. Cool enough. We are firing our update, we are firing our add, and yeah, we are firing the delete, and we are firing mark as complete. I'm going to save these changes. Now, still a component is not working actually. If you see, delete is not happening. If I try to add something, suppose new item, and I save, see, that's not getting listed in the list. And if I say update, see, nothing really. Okay, so let's try to create events out of our action. That is the next step, as we discussed in the theories. Cool, let's go to our to-do service, and now we are gonna have our events. So what could be our events? Events could be after the user has added a new to-do. Let's say to-do is added, or to-do got updated, or to-do got deleted, or to-do got complete, so to-do completed, something like this. Okay, so now let's say to-do added. What we have to do here is, on whenever this add fires, this add subject fires, we need to call an API to add that particular entry in the database. Or you can say we have to call this particular method that simply returns the observable for creating any to do. Okay, let's do that. This dot add dot pipe. So using the operator decision tree, you can find which operator we need to use here. So you can just simply Google search RxJS operator decision tree. So let me use switch map, and okay, switch map is imported here. Okay, what does it take? It takes whatever value we receive from the add. So value, and that is nothing but a description, to be honest. And simply we're gonna pipe to create to do observable. It takes description itself. Cool enough. And that's it. Our event is here for to do. Next, we are going to create the event in a similar fashion for deleted. To do deleted. This dot delete dot pipe switch map. Okay, it has a value of to do, or new. I mean the to do that needs to be deleted, and we have to pipe it to this particular method that returns the API for deleting this particular to-do. It just needs a to-do ID. So let's do this. Okay, delete to-do. Cool. So event for to-do deleted is ready. Now the same goes for to-do. Okay, to-do completed. This dot mark is complete, and wait a second, there is something. This needs to be double dollar since it is subject and we are following that naming convention. And in a to-do also, let's make that change. Cool, good enough. Mark is complete. Dot pipe. Okay, what does it have? It has two things, that is this. Wait a second. It is having to do and is completed flag to us. This dot update to do, because marking as complete is updating itself where it's updating only the completed flag. Okay, so we have to call this particular method that takes the ID and the updated to do. Okay, what is the ID? To do dot ID, and the updated to do is the same to do with only the completed flag has changed. It's completed. Okay, good enough. And we are gonna do in a similar way for to do updated. Update. What does it return? It doesn't really return this. Okay, so it has our updated to do, and same thing, it takes the ID and the updated to do. Updated to do we can simply pass here to. Cool, good enough. So we have got our events: to do added, to do deleted, completed, updated. This was our next steps to have our events. Let me save this and let's see if our component is working or not. Delete. No, it's not working. This thing, go to shopping. No, this is also not working because this is non-persistent it. And update. Okay, no, this is also not working. Cool. So what is the next step? So next step is reacting to these events. So how these events affects the data. So let's create another event that is nothing but a derived events. I mean a derived event based on these events. Let me say that is to-dos affected. I mean there is a change in to-do. So using again the RxJS operator decision tree, you can get this operator if you are fresh or new to RxJS. I will use merge. Merge to, if any of this observable emits, it's gonna fire. So it says if any of this fires, that means the to-dos got affected. To-dos added, to-dos deleted, to-do completed. our to-dos updated. Good enough. And now what we are going to do, see, as of now, this to-dos that represents the data that is going to be fed to our component is just this initial data, right? But soon we are going to club this into the equation. So what we are going to say is, whenever our to-dos got affected, just refetch or resubscribe to this observable, right? To fetch the data again. Cool. So again, I'm going to do to-dos affected pipe. I don't really care what value we get from here. And we are cool. Yes, we are cool. Although there is a missing piece here. If you see this merge operator, it'll fire only when one of this fires. But initially, if you see, none of it really fires, right? Okay. I forgot to actually pipe and use any operator here. So I want to have again a switch map. I don't really care what goes in here. Okay, cool, good enough. So we say this will fire only when one of this fire. But initially, as you can see, there is no data here. Initially, nothing fires, right? Because the user hasn't taken any action of add, delete, update, and mark is complete. So for the first time, what we are going to do is we want some emission from here. So for that, I'm going to use this start with. I don't really care what value goes in, so it could be just null. Okay, as I hit save, you can see again the data is appearing because we are having this initial emission and it's subscribing to this observable. Cool, good enough. Let's see if our other functionalities are working or not. I'm gonna do delete. Okay, it's happening. So what you saw here is in the template, wait a second. Yeah, in the template, I am calling this function. In the delete to do, I'm just simply firing this particular subject. And as you could see in the to-do service, when this action got fired, it is subscribing to this, that is delete to do. It called the API, and after that API is completed, then this particular observable or our event fires. As this fires, so one of this observable fires, that means this emits, and when this emits, again it goes to this, again it refetch the API. Okay, let's see our other things if those are working. I'm gonna mark this as complete. Is it a persistent change? Let's try to refresh and see. Okay, it is persistent. Cool, good enough. Let's try to add one to do. Let's say yeah, our add is working actually. So by default our to do is incomplete, and let's say if our update is working. Okay, we are not really populating the value here of the existing to do, so let's do that now. So to do HTML. Okay, this is our description control. So in the description control, as you can see, I'm just having this empty value. But if I got anything from my dialog data.current to do, I have So I should be having it in my control, right? So let's try to do this. Dialog data dot current. Since current is optional property, so I'm going to use the safe operator here. Okay, safe operator dot what? Description, right? Although you could have typed this also in. And if it is not here, then simply empty string. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's getting populated. Let me try to change it. Go to something. Yeah, it's updating. And yeah, all our things are working now. Now the next step is, as you can see in our service itself, we are refetching this API, right? This fetch to dos whenever any of our action emits. But it is not really required. You might have already thought of it because we already have the data. Suppose we know when we are marking this as complete, it is going to be complete, and we have the updated data. We know what needs to be deleted and everything. So next step is going to be, how can we change this particular observable in a way so that it doesn't really have to refetch this API. Cool. Let's do that next.